So good morning, Johnny. I know it's a Saturday morning, and I'm so excited to be having the first guest speaker to my YouTube channel, Prideful Narratives. And I couldn't have found any like better speaker than you. We've been connected for many years. You've been very inspiring to me personally when I was coming out and discovering my sexuality. And you were always like listening and sharing your stories that were very inspiring to me many years ago. And since then, we've been like really connected thanks to social media. So, and you're a very inspiring person. You're an aspiring actor. You have done your musical theater. You're also involved in photography. You sing, you dance. You're multi-talented, and like it's part of being gay. I always say gays are very smart, very creative, multi-talented. So I'm excited to be starting this journey with you. And if you want to like introduce yourself a little bit, pronouns, where you're calling from.
Yeah. So I'm Jonny. I am from Missouri. Oh my God, think about God, has it been 10 years since we've known each other? No, we met in 2016 because
It's
it was right
been
after I
it's been
graduated.
many, many years. So
Yeah, wow. That's didn't realize that.
you were an integral part of my like coming out story and like learning about my sexuality because I was like still not sure how to navigate it, how to deal with my family challenges, and then talking to you, learning from your story, it really inspired me. So and like this sense of community belonging and visibility that
Mhm.
you've been doing has been really inspiring. So I'm so excited to be learning more about you. And like we've been so interconnected, like we're both spiritual. Even some people might not know, but we're both on a tarot card called like the Gate Swirl.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
have them too. I always have ours right next to each other.
yes, I was gonna show people. So you are the Empress.
Yeah, this was one of the most fun projects I've been a part of with A Touch of Matt
Mhm.
on Instagram.
Yeah, so you are the Empress in that tarot card,
Yes.
and I am the Queen of Cups. So it's been
Thousands of
so
miles away from each other, but we're in a tarot deck together. We are forever in something.
literally. So yes, I'm super excited to have you. And if you're ready, if you're comfortable, we will start with the first question.
Yeah.
So can you take us back to the moment you decided to come out on
Hmm.
Halloween when you were only 14?
Yeah. Ironically, now a practicing pagan, I came out on Halloween. Go figure. Uh, but at that moment, let's see, that was sophomore year. So I started high school 07, 08. So there was 2008 that fall. With everything going on politically as well at that time, don't ask to tell. The Prop 8 was going on, and I had done a lot of soul searching and trying to figure out what I wanted to do and who I was by that time at 15. Yeah, I was 15. So at that time, I'd already done a lot of soul searching for myself during like my middle school uh, ages and years. So I already had come out to myself, and I think is even a longer journey for people who are queer than coming out to other people, because at first you have to come out to yourself, because that's a whole other journey that if you're not ready for anyone else to know, you have to know yourself. So I was out with my two friends in our neighborhood, like trick-or-treating before we went to a not Harry Potter, sorry, went to a Halloween party. Um, and I just was like, you know what? I want to do this. I'm about to be 16 in 6 months. And I think I should have support. And so of course, I don't think a lot of people, well, maybe nowadays they do, but I don't think a lot of people at that time in the late 2000s, early 2010s didn't really come out to their family first.
Mhm.
I still think that's a kind of a trend. Like you want your like chosen family and your support team first before you tell your family by blood. Um, so I came out to them, and they were super excited, super supportive. They were the first two I came out to. I was like panicked. I didn't know how they would react. And looking back, I was like, why did I not think they'd be so cool that we have gay friends? But when you're in the situation, you're not seeing it from the outside. So I was so nervous, so panicked, came out to them. They were so excited, so happy for me, and like, oh my God, we finally have another gay bestie. So yeah. And then after that, I came out more to people, and some people already knew, which is fine, but they gave me the grace of allowing me to come to terms to myself and make it on my terms and conditions of when I wanted to come out to people. So it wasn't like forced out or pressured.
Mhm. No, thank you so much for sharing, and it's fascinating that you still remember it in so much details, like as if it happened yesterday, because
Oh,
this
yeah.
moment in every part of the community is very profound. Like I still remember mine very precisely. So thank you for sharing that. And like if you can also share what was going on in your mind, and how did it feel at that moment?
Um, at the moment, I was terrified because where I grew up, just not like a lot of people don't really know about the Midwest. They think we're just flyover country and farmland. But I was in a metropolitan city, St. Louis, where I grew up, and I knew it was more of a liberal and more accepting area,
Mhm.
but it's a very weird state because a lot of it is farmland, but there's a lot of there's like the Blue Highway. It's like a strip of blue. There's like St. Louis, Columbia, Kansas City are three little blue dots in the state of Missouri where they're more open. Uh, so I knew it was more liberal and open in St. Louis, but areas of St. Louis and in the state, it's still very Republican, very conservative, very red.
Mhm.
So I was always nervous about that because people still hold these religious and prejudiced views, even still today in 2024. So I was just mainly thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? What if, like, my teachers don't like me because I'm
Mhm.
gay? What if I'm applying for a job and they don't like me because I'm gay? What if I lose a lot of friends? What if I, in turn, lose the connections I've already made? Because I was 15, so you're just out of middle school, you're into high school, you're your sophomore year, you're trying to make those connections that you see in movies and TV that will be your lifelong friends. And I was thinking, oh my God, what if this one thing will put like just put a nail into everything, and then I don't have those connections, I won't have friends, and my friends I've had since I was 5 that I've been with all throughout my education, what if they just drop me? What if they just turn their back on me? um, so that's what I was going through my head at the time, and I was really nervous because when you come out, you never know how anyone's going to react. You never do, whether they be your friends, family, coworkers. You don't know, and that first time you're saying you're gay to somebody, it's a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
But then, as a fellow queer person, you're always coming out to people. Every new person you meet, every new connection, every new work person, every new person you start making any connection with in public, platonic, work, whatever relationship that is, you have to come
Mhm.
out again every time. And it gets easier, but that first time, it's like, it is very much an anxiety inducing thing.
Mhm. No, of course, like I know there's a lot of emotions taking place now. It can be triggering to remember these situations. So, like as you mentioned, it's not a one-time event. You come out and that's it. But no, it's a continuous process when you meet new people, when you move to a new place, when you change jobs, when you travel. And as you said, it can be risky and you need to assess. It's a choice you make. Definitely, there's going to be consequences. Definitely there's going to be some worries like what will my teacher say, how will my family react, well I'm gonna be losing some friends. So it's terrifying, but like it's not a must. Not every member of the community needs to come out due to different factors, but sometimes just being your true authentic self can be very liberating, and you will know that who are the real ones that really love you for you, who you are, without needing to wear any mask or changing your core self. And you did mention about like having some terrified thoughts about what will my teacher say, what will my classmates say, and like I know you had some adversities that you faced when you were in the fourth grade. So do you
Yeah.
wanna maybe share more about that, and how
Yeah.
did you cope with the negative labels from the students against you?
Yeah. well, fourth grade was probably my roughest year in elementary school. And I don't know where it happened or how it happened. I mean, I was always a very feminine kid, and I always have. I'm a little more feminine, but I don't care. Gender's fluid. I am what I am. I don't care. I will be masculine sometimes. I'll be feminine. But when I was younger, I was very a feminine little kid, and I fully admit it. But I don't know where it started per se, but I know that's when a lot of kids started to learn what like gay was. Let's see, fourth grade for me would have been, I got out of elementary school in 04. So 03, 04. It would have been 02 and 03 for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was around 10 in 2003. So they were learning like, the that's so gay that was happening around, that people were calling everything gay they thought was stupid. It was still very much a taboo in the culture, even though like Will and Grace was on TV, but like still the American society was not as comfortable with viewing queer stories, queer people, queer music. It was still kind of underground and just making little bits of space and media. And then, like, unless you like paid for like certain cable channels, like here where like Queer as Folk was, Dante's Cove, other TV shows like that in the early 2000s, like you didn't see anything queer, represented at all. So they learned what this word meant. Then they also learned the slur for it. And we're like 10 and 11. So all these kids started making gay jokes. Was here, and kids are mean in elementary school, so they're learning things that they can tear people down with. They are learning how to go for people's insecurities. And for me, being more feminine boy at the time and not understanding anything at the time what gay was, they labeled me as that.
Mm-hmm.
So they labeled me as gay and fag. And oh god, there was a stupid number joke I remember. What was it? Because we were the right ages. So it's like, I remember. I don't know if you remember this, but or if it was around at all when you were my age. But they're like, are you 10, 11, or like 00? Oh, so they were making jokes like, are you 10? Like, are you a hole in a one? Are
Mm.
you two ones? And then are you like 00? Like that was the stupid joke they were making. But they're asking me those questions, and then they started labeling me as gay and fag, and it actually got to the point where it spread around the whole entire elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
My friends ostracized me. I was alone a lot. All the friends I've had, since the last 4 years in kindergarten, just kind of stepped away for a bit because I was this, you know, labeled as this freak, basically. Like, oh, he's gay, he's a fag, he's gay. And it got to the point where like kindergarten came up to me one day. It was like, hey, you're a fag. And I'm like, you're 5 years old. I could kick you across the football field or soccer field or whatever. Like, go away. You were 5. What do you know? But it was really hard because at that time, so 2003, so very still conservative Bush era presidency and society of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then growing up in a very more conservative home, Christian influenced, I learned what gay was after everyone labeled me as gay and faggot and all these derogatory terms. And I was like, okay, looking, what does this mean? And then I learned the Bible verse says like, a man to lay with a man is an abomination, and things I taught was taught in church, like that
Mm-hmm.
it was wrong, and the Bible said this, and whatever pastor people say at the time, and the unfortunately very conservative era of our country, and also in the state at the time,
Mm-hmm.
being in Missouri. Uh, it was hard because I was so conflicted because I didn't understand really if I was gay at the time. I didn't know how to relate the word gay to what I wanted. Because
Mm-hmm.
you're 9, 10 years old, you're not thinking about sex. You're not thinking about attraction. You're like, I'm going to elementary school. I have to work on this Missouri State project or whatever project you're working on at that age. You're not thinking about like kissing boys, kissing girls. You're just like, I got to get through elementary school. I'm almost done. So it was very hard, as everyone labeled me as that. Bullied, a lot of bullying, a lot of verbal abuse. The physical stuff didn't happen until like around middle school, but it didn't last that long because I put a end to that real quick. But yeah, it was very destructive, and unfortunately at the time I didn't know how to handle all that destructive emotion, so I turned the destructive things onto my own body. So I would like pinch myself till I bled. I would start slicing my thighs with knives, and then I did realize at the time, like a few months into it and doing that, after a few times, like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. I should just confront people rather than turning the harm onto myself. So I had a little bit of a nugget there of like, maturity. But you're 9, 10 years old, so you have no idea what you're doing. But yeah, that's unfortunately how I handle. I went a little destructive on my own body because I didn't know how to handle the emotions and all the abuse of people label me as fag, not wanting and gay. I'd hear it in the hallways between classes. Like I remember going to gym one day because we had pods in our elementary school. So we walk out of the fourth grade pod, down, turn left and go down the hallway, and then turn right at fifth grade, and then go down the hallway to where our lunchroom and gym were right next to each other. And I would have people I didn't even know. They'd be like, look at that faggot, look at that gay kid. Like you'd hear it in the hallway, and I was like, you don't even know me. So how can you make I couldn't understand how they make these judgments on me because they didn't even know who I was. Like when you have fifth graders, second graders, third graders, and the whole school people you don't know just calling you these derogatory terms, you don't really understand how they can be so mean. And kids are mean, but you also can't grasp on how to process it at the time when you're 9, 10 years old.
Mhm. Like, I'm out of word because I know that to most of us, our years in school, high school can be very, very challenging. And as you said, people can make fun of you, make jokes, bully, and they don't know the impact that this have on us. And as you mentioned, sadly, this took a toll on your mental health, and you were like self-harming. And instead of loving ourselves, we start having this confusion in the very first years where we are like exploring ourselves, our identities, our sexual orientations, our genders. And then they start labeling us, and then they have these stereotypes: gays are this and this and this, or
Mm-hmm.
so they don't know that we are very diverse, we're very different. But they just put us in one box, give us these labels that are very derogatory and condescending, and they can definitely impact us. So I can't even imagine like how difficult this must have been for you.
Well,
Uh,
like you're only 9 or 10, so you're not having all the deep thoughts like you have now in your 20s and 30s when you've learned more, you know about more about how people process emotions, you know more about mental health. You're not thinking that deep because you're only 9, 10 years old, and or as you said, you're young in middle school. You're just learning how to
mhm,
process your emotions, process feelings. You're exploring yourself and sexuality eventually, but at 10 years old, you're just like trying to get through your day. Like one of my friends from high school who's like a little sister to me, she remembers being picked up by someone in my grade. Their mom did like a carpool,
mhm,
and my mom picked me up that day too. Apparently, I don't remember this, but she said this. She was in the car with the person from my grade and their friends and their parent. She was going to be driven home. A person from my grade pointed me out and said, "See that kid?" And she's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "That kid's a faggot." And we were both in fourth grade, and like she even remembers hearing that. She's like, "Why is a fourth grader calling someone a faggot?" Yeah, and she was 1 year younger than us, so
mhm.
there are just things I remember being back, looking back and doing some fun inner child work and flashbacks.
So if these people, these bullies, these people who were putting you down at an early age of your life where you just wanted to be safe and enjoy your life, enjoy your childhood, uh, what message would you say to them? Like, what impact did that period have on you?
It was a very destructive impact, because I started doubting everything in my identity at that time, because I'm a child, so you're still under your parents' influence, mainly when you're 9, 10. You're not rebelling yet as a teenager. So like I had these ideals of what I was supposed to be, what I had, and it was very much separating that, and not the most graceful way. It wasn't by my choice. It wasn't me saying I'm gay. Oh, I think I'm gay. I think I like boys. It was, you're gay. You're uh, this awful person. The word gay was associated with someone disgusting, someone gross at the time, someone disease possibly. Because I know because you're fifth grade, you're just doing like health classes and you're discovering HIV, everything. Eventually, like early middle school, you're talking about that stuff, and they like, oh, gays had HIV, you must be diseased. And I had that thrown at me late middle school, or early middle school, late elementary school, and they learned about that, and we learned about that in health class. The very appropriate, appropriate for the age group of like, hey, don't do this because this happens, and they just touched on it, but they made the connection, gay, HIV, oh, you must be sick. So that was another whole issue I had to conquer and
Mhm.
squash. But it was very destructive, with my upbringing being Christian, and the ideals my parents had for me, the ideals I had for myself from my parents' viewpoint. It was a not graceful choice on my part to be suddenly thinking, oh my God, am I gay? What is gay?
Mhm.
How many, what are the different things of being gay? Or is it always just this negative connotation? Or is it always this negative person who's sick? Or is it someone who's always feminine? Like, I
Mhm.
had no concept of it, but it was just forced upon me, very non-consensually, because it wasn't my choice to like come out yet. Because I didn't even know myself. Like I said, I was 9, 10. You're not thinking about dating or anything at that point. You're just trying to get through life, and it
Mhm.
was very, very destructive.
Of course, you're still very innocent at 9 years old. You don't know what's going on. But like all of this hatred goes to your subconscious and it will affect your life trajectory. Like these things don't go away. Like even after many years, you still remember. And I can see all these emotions that are going around now. So it's definitely tough. And hopefully people will one day realize that you are just humans, just like them. We deserve to love and be loved. We can be different, unique, diverse, and hopefully bullying will stop in school. And you mentioned HIV stigma, like even nowadays, we can
Yeah,
see it. There's still a lot of stigma about it. So I can't even imagine back then. It must have been even harder. So people,
especially when you're a child and don't understand.
yeah. So like I always say like we are very resilient people, uh, very smart, and despite everything that we go through, we are look at you, you're very inspiring, you're very successful, you're doing great in life, you're fabulous, you're looking amazing. So we are unstoppable, like and like literally nothing can stop us. And people throw hate at us, we throw love back, we throw compassion,
Exactly.
throw understanding. We're very empathetic. So I wish more and more people will be loving and accepting, not tolerating, but accepting. So, because I know a friend who once told me the difference between tolerance and acceptance. He gave this example like imagine a mosquito roaming above your head. So it's roaming, roaming, roaming. You've been tolerating it, and at the end, you smack it. So we don't
Yeah.
want tolerance, we want full acceptance. And I know you did mention like you've been in a Christian upbringing, like you were in a Christian environment with a
Mhm.
conservative family. So how did you navigate those challenges, especially with the conservative views within your family?
Um, so at fourth grade, when the gay bomb dropped, and the verbal abuse started happening, and I was trying to deny it because, first of all, like I said, you're a child, you're not thinking about sexuality, you have no idea what that is.
Mhm.
Um, well, at the time, I think kids are more open to things now, but at the time, early 2000s, it was a huge like taboo to even talk about anything that wasn't heterosexual or straight.
Mm-hmm.
And then being in a very conservative family, it was very, very hard to figure out what I was and how I could, like, the duality of the situation, because I was one way with my parents, and then at school I was being told all these things, and then I was questioning everything and questioning, am I this? Am I not? I don't know. And then I would research things on the internet and ask, like, what is gay? And then this, and then what's, they don't teach anything. Yeah, even at that time, it wasn't mentioned. And as I said, it was taboo. So I had to do all the research on myself and then battle like the religious aspect of my family and going to church every Sunday, and then trying to figure out where I fit in this duality of very conservative mind points as well as the religious side. Because my dad, he grew up closer to where I am in central Missouri now, but it is more of a very rural area.
Mm-hmm.
And he grew up on a farm. So very, very hard, more core Christian upbringing that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, so he came from a smaller town, smaller view of the world, more conservative, that core values, and so that was kind of forced onto me since a young age. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I started questioning that, it was like everything I had learned just crumbled, and I had no identity. I had no idea who I was, where I was, what I believed. Still going to church every Sunday, but then questioning every verse, questioning everything that's being taught, questioning everything that's said in politics at the time. As I said, this was still, yeah, this was still in the Bush era of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, still very, shunned upon to bring up anything LGBT. But then I was questioning all these political views my parents had and what they were voting for. And so I had to kind of grow up a little faster with the politics side, because my dad would always be listening to the conservative talk radio, always have Fox News on, always have things. And I was starting to question everything and cause tension in my household. But then when I did more research, the branch of Christianity I was brought up in is Episcopalian.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the ones that broke away from Catholicism, and it's kind of like the Protestant kind of family. Uh, we have women run our church. We have men and women both equally powered at my church. And then when I did more research, I actually our last bishop, actually, him and his husband are gay. Like, they've been at Pride in St. Louis and before, and they're really sweet. And I learned that my branch of religion actually is more accepting. And so I was like, wait a minute. If the religion we go to, an Episcopalian church, is more open, why are my parents aren't? Why are my parents not?
Mm-hmm.
Why are their viewpoint not as open as the church says it should be? Um, and that was another huge thing that made me rip my identity apart, because I was trying to figure out where I fall with my parents saying things, and then the Bible, and then our church. So it was a very confusing, conflicting time of trying to figure out where I fell between those 3 points, like parental, political, and religion.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. Coming out in the context of a Christian upbringing must have had like a lot of unique challenges that you mentioned. However, you did find this religious background that intersected with your journey of self-acceptance, and you've done your own research. And you also mentioned that you had some rebellion against your father. So
Yeah.
it was a significant part of your journey. So, can you elaborate on that and how it influenced your path to self-discovery?
Okay, so after the end of elementary school, so I got out of graduated fifth grade graduation woo in '04, and then my middle school years was '04. No, was it '04 and 7? Yeah, so it was '04, '05, '06, '07 is my middle school age, and
Mhm.
I don't know. Whoever figured, oh, it's a smart idea. Let's put all these hormonal preteens in one school for 3 years. Such a smart idea, because like it's like a thunderdome. Everyone's anxieties, everything is at level 100. Everyone hates each other. Everyone's going
Mhm.
after everyone's securities. It's awful. And the only saving grace of middle school is everything. Everyone's awkward, so that's the only saving grace. we're in our ugly duckly phase and era of our life.
Yeah.
But to mention that, hormones, oh my God. I was a little demon in middle school, like out of nowhere. So I started questioning everything my dad was saying, and we would have fights for hours and scream at each other at night and evening. He wanted me to do this, and I said, no, I don't want to. I don't like this. And he's like, no, you should. I'm like, no, why should I? And well, he would say like, oh, well, this is what not what he wanted, but like, what I'm saying, he would use and say, well, this is what a man is. This is what a guy does. I'm like, what if I don't want to do that? And he pushed me into sports at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to 5 years old, like I wanted to dance, I wanted to do theater stuff, and he said, no, you want to do sports? And I said, no, I don't. He's like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. And I go, no, I want to dance. And he told me right to my face at 5, only girly boys and girls dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been brought up on his movies and older movies. So like Golden Age, pre-Golden Age, like Wizard of Oz, like those are movies I grew up on seeing, because his mom was from the 1920s, and when she would babysit me, we'd watch all the old movies all the time, like Fred Astaire, all these good classic, big Golden Age musical and
Mm-hmm.
before musical movies. And so I was like, what about this person? What about this person? That's a guy, he danced. And I listed them all off. He got embarrassed and he said, well, you're playing baseball. And unfortunately, he forced me to play baseball for 7 years. I hated it. It was so boring. I did not like it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept forcing me to do that. And then he would also force me to do Boy Scouts. And I hated it because I don't like, not that I don't like the outside. I love being outside. I love being outside in woods. It's great. I just hate that the outside likes me too much. So or my body doesn't. Because like the bugs love me. So I break out in hives. And then also I'm allergic to a lot of pollen. So I'm miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Dad growing up on a farm, it's like, yeah, go outside. That's what we always did. Nothing bothers him. That's great. I was miserable. And he was kept saying, oh, no, you got to do Boy Scouts. You got to do this. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't like it. And they go, why don't you like it? And I tell him, he goes, well, you're just being weak, and you're just being this, and you're just being in trouble. And, oh, it's not that bad. So we'd have so many fights during my middle school age about baseball. I don't want to play anymore. I'm not going to the camping trip. I don't want to. So I purposely made myself super, super busy
Mm-hmm.
with theater and choir. And I'm like, oh no, I have a concert that weekend. I can't go. And so he'd get mad at that. And then we'd have fights about politics all the time. He's like, why don't you believe this? You should believe this. The Bible says this. I'm like, the Bible's been paraphrased so many different times.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, no, it's not. It's this. I'm like, that's great. That wasn't added until 1946 or sometime in the 40s. I can't remember when the translation was added to the Bible. The one, Sodom and Gomorrah, the line about man should not lay with another man, like it's an abomination, like the
Mm-hmm.
mistranslation thing that we now know of. And I was like, that's only one interpretation of it. And we would go for hours and just fight about anything. Like the hormones were extra spicy with me, and I chose any place to rebel against what he wanted to do because I did not like it, and I didn't want to support anything that he had to try and control me with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really like being controlled. I like to choose my own
Who
path.
does like so? Yeah.
Oh, it was hours and hours of fighting every night. It started and it went on till like I went to bed and then woke up the next morning, and then it would start again at night. Like anything he wanted to try and enforce on me, I just would have retaliate. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, I know it was hormonal middle schooler. Like you're in that Thunderdome at school and you're still in that rage when you come home and everything's heightened,
Mm-hmm.
everything will piss you off immediately. Like
Yep.
I was ready to fight, and those 3 years were a little chaotic. So
Well, you mentioned, I can only imagine when you're hitting puberty, there's a lot of hormonal challenges, and then you have this self-exploration that contradict with what your family is saying, what your father, what your religion, what your community. So it's definitely challenging. And you did mention going to theater as an outlet. So you mentioned that using it as a form of expression and
mhm.
escape. So how has the performing arts helped you navigate and communicate your experience?
The performing arts, theater, choir, all these more the artist side really helped me at that time when you are just like angry at everything. Everything makes you angry. You're pissed. Your emotions are heightened. It helped me find a channel of how to focus it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as an actor, when you're in shows, you can embody somebody else. You can learn whether you agree with that character's stance or not. You can dive into their emotions, how they feel, how they view things, and you can learn how to emote from a different point of view, which is really great. So that
Mm-hmm.
helped me see different sides of people, as well as introduce me to brand new people because a lot of gay people flock to the theater and the arts because they're more accepting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's more of a family, and a lot of creatives are queer. I've noticed and throughout
Mm-hmm.
history. So we kind of flocked together and find our groups. And theater was a way I could channel that rage with music. I could channel that rage with acting, with dance. I could also step into other characters and escape my life for a little bit, which is great. As well as I said about emoting from another point of view, is I could become someone that I'm not and understand their viewpoint. So whether it be someone who was more like my father or more like me or somebody else, I could step into that and understand their way of processing their emotion, their experiences, and kind of create that character of knowing, understanding, and then go, oh, this relates to my dad and why he thinks this way. He's similar to this character and how this one grew up. This is why he thinks this way, and it helps me break down a lot of emotional boundaries we had together. It helped me learn more about other people.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned how to emote in a healthy, creative way rather than a chaotic, destructive one. Uh, it helps so much. I have lifelong friendships from the theater department that I still talk to this day. I still constantly will call people or text them, check in with them that I met in middle school, high school, and theater. Theater here where I am now. I just got into a little bit before the pandemic, but I still talk to the people all the time. Um, there's so many ways theater helped the like little chaotic middle schooler version of myself
Mm-hmm.
either regulate my emotions, to see other people from different viewpoints. Just it was a great experience, and that's one thing that I will probably always cherish about the theater departments. And
Mm-hmm.
they allowed me to be like, and plus the best part of theater is they allow you to be destructive when you need to be. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, that character is super angry, or they're like super sad, cry, like tap into that. Like it's okay to cry, it's okay to scream, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to
Mm-hmm.
do this as this character. It's not you. And that was what a really big thing to me. I was like, wait, I can use my own emotions, but not being me. And that was really a cool concept when I was like 12 years old, trying to and, like get into theater and like doing scenes, in drama class, and tapping into that raw emotion, but then able to get it out in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
So like I could tap if like a character was enraged about something, I could use some of that already rage I had in my mind and emotion from my father or whatever was going on. A plethora of things that were going on. And I could channel that into there and get it out in a healthy way. Besides, like just yelling at somebody in the hallway, yelling at somebody in class, or just not making the correct decisions. Um, I could channel it there to get it out of my body and then process the emotion that way through a
Mm-hmm.
character and then relate it back like, oh, this is why I feel better because I process this. This is how the character sees things. This is how I'm interpreting it. It was a nice way to like bring everything together in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm. So I just noticed your nails and they're looking amazing. And
Oh, thanks. I need to redo them.
yeah, no, super talented. And I can tell like your theater was a place where you were welcomed. It was a safe space for you to express your feelings, your emotions, and you were not judged. You were simply accepted for your true authentic self, and you were like included. You felt like you belong, and that's really important because you use it as a healthy coping mechanism to deal with all the internal turmoil that was happening at that time. So I'm glad you found this space at that integral phase of your life.
Mhm.
And,
It was fun.
yeah. And I know you did mention about your Boy Scout camp memories.
Yeah.
So could you share some experiences from the Boy Scout camp, and how did those times shape your understanding of yourself and your resilience?
Um, when the National Boy Scout in the United States, one of the morals is to be morally straight.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, they take it as like morally straight to be heterosexual straight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and being already a feminine kid, being teased at school, these were things people would, bother me about. And you can't be gay in the Boy Scouts or outly gay. There's still, at that time, there were still issues about it. People, whether it be scout masters or people at a leader level, or whether like kids are gay in the scouting troop. Um, there are issues with them being because that morally straight line is one of the things we talk about, and when I can't remember what it was one of the oath things we say every time. Um, uh, I can't remember what it was called because I kind of blocked a lot of stuff out at that time period. Anyway, but they like to take that advantage of and to use that to bully me, and they did at the time. Like I don't have any malice against them now because I've
Mm-hmm.
grown. Therapy's great. Um, it happened, process. It's done now. But at the time, I was very much ostracized and teased and bullied a lot about that. I did get punched a few times at Boy Scout camp. Um, was very much insulted a lot. I didn't want to be there. I wasn't a camping person. I didn't like it, so they'd be very confused of why I was there because my dad forced me to, and that was the truth. Um, a lot of middle school stupid antic boys, teasing, bullying, things like that were happening. Um, as I said, I got punched a few times, but I just kept going until like I finally got out of the one troop I wanted to get out of, and then my dad got me right into another one. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Uh, and then I just made myself super busy with the arts, so didn't have the time. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing, ironically, that Scouts did though is they actually made me more aware of my queer self. Oh, there, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
my little tray dropped. They actually made me more aware of my queer self because the Boy Scouts of America, they're a very Native American ideology based organization. Uh, like some of the steps is very much based on the Native American aspect and their beliefs. And so then I did a deep dive on different religions, and I was like, wait a minute, this whole morally straight have to be heterosexual thing doesn't make any sense if you look at some of the Native American beliefs they're pulling from.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe it's called Two Spirit in the Native American,
Mm-hmm.
was one of their queer titles. They respected people who were gay. They respected people who were non-binary, trans,
Mm-hmm.
as more spiritual people because they have both the balance of masculine and feminine in their body. And so that actually made me think, wait a minute, I'd actually be more respected than this. And if it was according to the true Native American aspects they're
Mm-hmm.
pulling from. And so it actually made me realize my queer identity, ironically, more than I think my dad or the leaders wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was ironically a lot of growth because I was like, wait a minute, I'd be more respected than anybody who's straight and heterosexual because I am more balanced of the energy of women and, masculine and feminine than
Mm-hmm.
what this organization has kind of warped it to be morally straight, heterosexual. So ironically, that helped me out a lot once I got to that research and I was old enough to understand it.
Well, thank you for bringing this very important point because it's a piece of information that was very essential in my healing journey as well. Like when I learned that Two-Spirit and indigenous communities were actually respected, valued, they were the leaders of the tribes, they had a lot of wisdoms to share. And because they consider them having both divine masculine and divine feminine energies, so I'm like, I wish I was part of that tribe where I would be respected and appreciated instead of having these ideologies around that put me down and diminish me as a human, as a soul that needs to flourish. So, and regarding your experience in the boys' scout camp, it sounds like it was toxic. So, uh, who were your pillars of support during these challenging times, like your support system, and how important were they in your journey?
At that time, I didn't really have many people to support me because my dad was all into like Boy Scouts, Boy Scouts. Yes, this is how
Mm,
we do things. This is how like he really wanted to connect with me on the whole aspect of being outside and like this whole older image of how a man should be. And so we really didn't have a connection or support really at that time because it was still like middle school age and early high school. Um, so that would be like '04 to like I don't know, like '04 into fifth grade to like 2009, like that those years. So I didn't really have much support at the beginning, but then when I got to high school, I had more friends, more support, theater department. Those are the people I went to as well. Teachers, and they were teaching me how to like, hey, maybe you should bring these things up to your father, and I did. But my dad is a very stubborn person when he wants something to be his way, he really wants it to be his way. So there was a lot of tension between us. A
mhm,
lot of my friends were my pillars of support at that time, um, that I still have in my life today. Of course, we're not as close since we're all around the country now being adults. But at that
mhm,
time, I had
mhm,
a lot of close friends in the theater departments in middle school and then into high school that helped me through a lot of stuff, which was really nice to have. But I kind of had to do a little bit on my own because I didn't really have support in scouts themselves because I was rebelling against the ideology of
mhm.
like a very colonized, whitewashed version of Native American things. It was really weird because then when I quit Boy Scouts and got out of it, like looking back, I'm like, wow, this is really kind of a weird colonized version of a lot of beliefs kind of smashed all together to create this organization. But I mean, each run, if you like it, go for it. I don't care. You like the Boy Scout, if you like the scouting organization, go for it. Like I'd stop you. It's just not for me. And that was one big thing with my dad. Like I finally had to be like, Dad, this is not for me. I don't want this. If you
Mhm.
want to, go ahead and go. I don't care for this. This is not for me. And it took him years to finally drill that through his skull because my dad is very stubborn and very
Mhm.
set in his ways. But it took a while.
It's very courageous because you found your own voice and you were advocating for yourself and setting your boundaries to protect yourself. So thank you for sharing. And I know it can be a very lonely battle, especially in the early years when you didn't come out. You'd be struggling internally, and everyone around you is not realizing what's going on in your mind. It can be very terrifying and a dark place to be. But I'm glad that over the years you were able to build your good support system, your friends who became your chosen family, and also you grew a lot of resilience. So thank you for sharing.
Well, I mean, especially when I came out in 15, I thought my dad would finally like understand, like, oh, I don't want to be in scouts. I technically can't
Mhm.
be in scouts. But then he was like, just don't tell anybody.
Mm.
I was like, Dad, now, but you haven't grasped this yet.
They can be in denial, but eventually they need to realize we are their children's and they need like hopefully give unconditional love. It can be challenging, but hopefully we reach this point soon in the future where.
Yeah, I mean, my dad now it's much better. Just it took him a while. Well, he had to deconstruct a lot of upbringing and from like a very conservative small farm
Mhm.
town.
It does sometimes get better with time, so time heals. So, and looking back, how have you evolved since the time you came out? Like, what
God.
changes have you witnessed, both personally and in your environment?
Um, Environmentally, I have experienced that a lot of people are more open as the years went by compared to the early 2000s. I have great friends from high school, college, and then post college life um, that are super accepting. Like they didn't give one care that I was gay, that I was a little more feminine. They didn't care anything about me as long as I was a good person. Like two very important people in my life. my former lesbian wife, who's now my binary spouse, love her, love them. They have been one of the most amazing people in my life. We are 4 years apart. I met them during my senior year. They were freshmen, and we immediately bonded, and we've always been there for each other to deal with any hardships, to support. Like when my dad had cancer again in 2022, they literally dropped everything and flew into Missouri to help us. They were here for our wedding right before the world shut down. I always try to see them if they're ever in town from New Jersey where they're working, when they come to see their family. We're very good supports of each other. And that's one thing I've noticed too. Like even the support around our friendship has slowly changed. People are more accepting. People like, because we had our small, like, little groups of people we knew that could, be accepting of us, and slowly it's been like going outward. So more people are accepting us, more people are seeing us, more people are understanding us and the queer experience and queer people. It's slowly getting there. It's taken time. It's not going to be overnight, and I know that. I wish it could be, but it's going to take time to finally have people understand us more, since we are a fully different culture within the mainstream culture. But I'm seeing kids that realizing sexuality younger, which is great. I do think sometimes with the younger kids though, don't try to label yourself too fast. Sexuality is fluid. You might, things might change as you get older. Like, just don't try to label yourself too quick, because you might be fully stuck in that and then realize you change and might have another, crisis of self possibly later. But I love that I'm seeing younger queer kids like realize they're somewhere in the queer community, somewhere in the LGBT plus life. They're realizing it younger, which is great. I love it. I love seeing it. Personally, things that have changed. I I have done a completely 180 in my belief system, my emotional state. Like, therapy is great when you're done with it, but at the process sucks sometimes, because it's hard to realize, oh God, I am the problem, or oh God, why did I do that? It's a lot of cringy things you got to look back on. But I've seen a lot of growth for me emotionally, that I've changed so much ever since that age. Even like 4 years ago, I'm completely different than I was 4 years ago. Even last year, I'm completely different. I have better connections with friends. I have more of a self-worth. I know how to process more negative emotions in a better way than I did when I was younger. I have more emotional stability. I'm not as afraid to like say I'm gay. And I think that comes with time and coming out to people multiple times throughout your lifetime. But it still always makes me nervous though, because you never know how anyone's going to react. You never know how anyone will react to like, oh, I'm gay, and then like, oh, or they be super chill or just uneasy. I'm always more nervous if I'm straight men, because I'm worried I'm always worried they think they're gonna like, oh, he's trying to hit on me. I'm like, I'm not trying to hit on you. I'm just like, hey, what's up? It's just, there's that queer fear still that I always am cautious of, especially being a conservative state. People might have more of a negative connotation, and you won't know that until you rip the Band-Aid off and say, oh, I'm gay. And you got to wait for the reaction and see how you handle that situation. But I have seen growth in myself. I've seen growth in my connections with friends. I've especially seen a lot of connection and growth in my emotional state, because after that wonderful few years of late middle school, starting in the fourth grade, I kind of turned off my ability to and just became very well. I turned off my ability to basically be emotionally open and emotionally feeling things. I just kind of turned it all off. I didn't want to feel for a long time. I didn't want to feel emotions, whether they be positive or negative. I didn't want to have anyone connected to me fully, deeply as a friend. And it took years and years to process.
Mm-hmm.
because I was ostracized at such a young age. I couldn't trust anybody, and I still have some issues with trust, and I fully admit it. I'm working through it. It's a process. Therapy's great,
Mm-hmm.
but there are things I'm working on, and I've seen a lot of improvement. Like actually, the one of the things my husband is, love him. He's great. We're very opposite people. He's the very much more lovey-dovey, emotional. I am just like, what are you doing? Why are you like trying to hug me? Go away. You can be 5 feet that way. Get away from me. Don't touch me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm slowly like learning, since his love language is touch, and I cannot stand people touching me. But I'm learning to like, oh, it's okay. I trust this person. It's okay if they are around me. It's okay if I'm emotionally vulnerable around people. It's okay if I cry in front of people. Like, I don't think Joey, my husband, has seen me cry but twice, because I don't like crying in front of people. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like people seeing me all upset and weird and emotional. I don't like expressing that very often publicly, just because I know a lot of people judged me when I was younger for crying when I was upset in middle school because of being teased. So I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to cry in front of people because that's not what a man does, and this is shown as weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually cry when I do cry. I cry alone because I'm like, I need to step away. But like, I'm being more emotionally vulnerable around people, and him especially. I'm learning how to let people in and not uh, be as such standoffish, because I
Mm-hmm.
can learn to trust people, and that's taken a lot of work on my side to actually form those really deep bonds of trust once
Mm-hmm.
I feel comfortable, because I had so many people in elementary school, middle school age just turn on me
Mm-hmm.
once they label me as gay, and it's taken a lot of work, and I'm getting there, and I can say I definitely see a big difference with that. So that's my growth that I've seen.
No, of course, thank you for sharing. And I know you mentioned your lovely husband, Joey, who has been an amazing support system to you, and you're both very adorable. And you also mentioned a very crucial point, which is therapy. And it's very crucial to me, therapy. I'm forever grateful to it because you're able to notice patterns, you become aware of them, and then only then you're able to change them, to break them, learn healthy coping mechanisms, learn more about yourself and why you behave this way, what kind of traumatic experiences led for you to numb your feelings, to detach, not to connect with others. So, as you said, it took you time to trust others because some people, once you came out, they stopped talking to you. This trust is broken. You felt a sense of betrayal. And you also mentioned there's been a lot of evolvement and people now are more accepting. So definitely over time we have won a lot of battles toward equality and justice, but the war is not over and more advocacy is still needed. So I'm gonna wrap it up with the final question. So if you could go back and give advice to your younger self or offer guidance to someone going through a similar journey, what would you say?
It's really funny because Joey and I have lived this now that I just turned 30 last year, and Joey's 2 years older than me. But it's really funny because the situation just happened this week, ironically. Kind of similar, not really similar situation, but our friends who are younger gay men in the gay community, they've been coming to us. They're like, John, Joey, you know things. You're older than us. I'm like, I am 30. I am faking it still. I have no idea what I'm doing. But they're like, you know all these things. We're gonna ask you all this sagely advice. I'm like, I don't know crap. I'm just trying to get through life without dying every day. Uh, but if I could go back and see my 9-year-old self, and I have done this with inner child work, and that, of course, that was the first person that showed up, and I was like, great, process this fun things. Um, the thing I had to tell myself, I remember, was, you are loved. You are loved. This is just child stupidity. It does get better. I know it's so cliche to say that, but it does get better. Not all of it
Mhm,
gets better, but a lot of it does. Because as you know, we still have issues going on currently in the world.
mhm,
But it it does get better. The situation will slowly, slowly um, get better for you, and you'll grow so much more stronger than these people that are so close minded. Some of them will come around, and apologize to you, which has happened, which was really, really
Mhm.
amazing to have that forgiveness. And then
Mhm.
I could in turn forgive them. But this will pass. You have to get through this. Remember all your strengths. Remember you're resilient. You are loved no matter what. And this will just move on. And you remember you are stronger than any of the words that they tell you. Yeah. So that's what I probably tell myself at 9 years old.
Thank you so much. That was very beautifully said, a very inspiring message. And as I mentioned in the beginning, despite all the adversities, you're still flourishing, you're inspiring others, and you inspired me myself as well. So thank you for everything you shared. And I know like there are some assumptions that usually if you are a cis white gay male in the state, in the West, it's
Ah,
kind of easier, you have privileges, but as we noticed today, that it's still a very challenging journey, and that took a lot of healing, going to therapy, learning how to love yourself, knowing that you're worthy, to build trust. Uh, the challenges it took with your father, with your family, with your religion, things you had to go through in your school. So that was very inspiring. I really appreciate the time it took for you to. I know it's like, as you mentioned, healing your inner child. It felt kind of like therapy, and a lot of emotions that were suppressed were out. And I know it was not easy for you, but I really appreciate every word you shared with us. And I'm sure it's going to inspire others who are going now through a similar challenge and journey somewhere else in the world where it's still illegal and it's punishable to be your authentic self the way you are born. So, again, I really thank you,
no
Jonny.
problem.